What's up again, everybody? It's Carpo here. Hope everybody's doing well today. Sitting in front of the camera again, making a random video. This one's off the top of my head, as a lot of them are, and I had a particular, I did have a specific subject in mind. I kind of just wanted to run over something that I've been thinking about in my head today, as usual. I've been in my routine mode today. It's difficult sometimes to get the things done that I need to get done. I have several things that I could occupy my time with, but I really love to learn. And for me, life has been about education. I'm going to move these lights because they're pointing right at me. There we go. For me, life's been about education since, at least since I was an adult. And I wouldn't say that I'm just constantly learning. That's not my thing. There were times in my life where I was reading incessantly and trying to gain as much information as I could. But there was an end. It was towards an end. And that was something that I really thought about today. And I want to try to give you a metaphor or an example of where I'm coming from. It's, there's knowledge and there's information. And they're two different things. And without getting too far into semantics, because I know that people will be able to, will have, different opinions on what I'm saying here. And that's totally fine. When I'm talking about information, these are bits and pieces of facts and figures that help you to build a base of knowledge. So picture the information as pieces of a puzzle. And the knowledge, once you attain what you would call knowledge, that's knowing. That's not just wondering and learning anymore. So I picture it as if the pieces of the puzzles are the information that I'm gathering throughout the years. Once I've developed a conclusion, that's considered a full puzzle. Then I can set that puzzle aside and forget about the details for a while and get them out of my mind, because knowing specific things. And what got me thinking about this was somebody was talking about memorizing pi earlier. How many digits can you remember? And I was thinking how I, at one time, memorized like 20 or 30 digits, but that was just for like a day or two, and I forgot about it right away. And how I was like, well, I don't really want to use, I don't need those memories. I don't need to remember these things. They don't have any function or purpose in my life. And I feel the same way with the details or information that I get. In other words, when you finally come to a conclusion and you know something, it's not really that important that you remember every single specific detail about how you came to that conclusion. However, it is important that you set your puzzle out for everyone to see if you want to believe something and truly have a foundation for it. So in other words, you can say, this is what I know or what I believe, and if a person wants to knock out a piece of the puzzle and you find out that the piece that they have fits better, well, you don't destroy the puzzle. All you're doing is putting in a piece that fits better. So the picture on the puzzle may not be perfect. It may be fuzzy, and you might find better pieces to work into that. And that's the thing, is to not put the puzzle away completely and say, I'm done, I know what's true. And I don't want to go into religion or politics here, but I want to use religion as an example, especially very dogmatic Christian beliefs, the extreme beliefs, and those who take the Bible verbatim, literally, in English. And you have a lot of interpreting that you have to do with that. And generally, once a person believes it a certain way, that's the way that they believe it, or the way their church believes it. That means all the pieces are fit into their puzzle, and they refuse to allow any pieces to be replaced by a better one, such as, well, maybe this meant this in the Bible, or maybe this could be taken as a metaphor. It's a very black and white, the way that many people who are extremely, biased in their religions, how they can be about these things. And politics, it's the exact same way. If a person's, leans right or leans left, they tend to follow those values regardless of whether or not, there might be something better that fits into a piece of their puzzle. And it doesn't mean you have to give up everything you know. It just means that you have to rethink what you think you know. So, I guess what I'm getting at, in a nutshell, is that having having knowledge about like specific historical events is not as important as having a rounded view of where humans have been through history. If you spend weeks learning about one particular, let's say the Revolutionary War, it would not be nearly as beneficial as spending those same weeks learning about 10 different wars and learning just 10% of what you learned about one war. Because you can sum up much of what humans have done in the archetypes and in the small repeated wars, patterns, and governments that have happened. Knowing about how one government collapsed is nothing compared to knowing about how several governments have collapsed. And try to figure out where we're going as people. Humans, we have no idea what we're in for. And I think that that's why knowledge is important. I feel like we owe it to ourselves and to our ancestors to educate ourselves. Because they had the time to do it. Or, I should say, we have the time to do it, and they didn't. I gotta make sure I still have time on my camera. Oh, good. Plenty of time. I really think that, for me, learning how things work and understanding the world around me has helped me to lead a better life, a happier life. And this is why science to me is just a phenomenal way to look at the world, but it's just one way to look at the world. And, spirituality, or whatever you want to call that, the spiritual side of ourselves, the reason, I guess the best way to define that would be the things that science cannot yet prove. Or maybe the parts of ourselves that we feel but can't express in language. The parts of ourselves that we all share. The yearning that we all have for something greater. And you start to see that sometimes the knowledge that we create for ourselves, the things we think we know and the puzzles that we fill, they are fuzzy, and they remain fuzzy throughout our lives. And some of those can be religious, and if they're okay as long as they benefit the individual and they're not harming anyone else. So really it's a matter of gaining as much information as you can about the subjects that are important to you, so you can best be suited to deal with those subjects as they come and go in your life. If you tend to be faced with a lot of weather problems where you live, for example, in ancient times, and you live in an area where there's a lot of flooding, it would do you well to learn about as much as you can about how crops react to floods and how to properly irrigate your gardens and build seawalls. If you're into race cars and you are a drag racer, it would do you well to understand how engines work and how to put in your own transmission and how to swap out your own parts and understanding the drag and air resistance. All of these things are very specific to the individual, and only the individual can know what they need to know and which parts of the puzzle they need. And this is why homogenized mankind is just such a joke. Like the idea that everybody should know everything, or that just because one person knows about one thing, that they're more than another person, that they're somehow superior. In the workplace, for example, your boss may be, let's just say, an amazing technical, maybe you work, let's just say, in computers off the top of my head, and you're just getting into the field and you're doing computer repairs, and your boss is this just amazing, he's on top of it, he's got all his a whole history behind him of things he's done. Or let's just say, maybe a better example is something that people might be able to relate to, like a soldier who wants to be a general, and the general within, he's just a phenomenal character, and he has all these gold stars and purple hearts, and on the battlefield, let's just say that this one soldier, maybe soldier to soldier, they're one's superior, maybe one's better at fighting, one's better at listening, he's better at organizing, but then when they go home to their families, that same soldier can't function within his family, let's say, or he doesn't do well with his kids, or beats his wife. I think both of those examples I used were horrible, but to get to the metaphor of what I'm trying to say is that somebody may appear to be really good at life because of what you see reflected in the job they do, but in their home life they may be the complete opposite. there are several different degrees of this. Maybe they have a phenomenal home life, but in their private life, in their mind, they're going completely crazy. Nothing is ever as it seems. People are complicated. We're all complicated. And the fact that we know anything, that we seek to gain knowledge, is something that's new. Humans didn't need to know all these things in the past. They just needed to know how to survive. So our brains have been adapting to this newfound, time to think. And, from what I understand, according to the gravity on our planet, the speed at which our neurons fire, our brains are actually the perfect size, and our heads are the perfect size. If you got any larger, it would take longer for the brain to communicate from place to place, whereas you might be able to store more information, but technically you wouldn't be able to function as well without the brain size that we have. And I found that to be fascinating. It's as if we've evolved at this point, for whatever reason or no reason at all, so we can think and reason, and what are we doing with it? That remains to be seen. That's a interesting question. We're dancing. We're going out with our friends. We're having a good time in life. Yep, I have 7 minutes left on there. I might as well just keep going for a couple minutes because I just wanted to chat. Because it's what I do. I haven't made a video in a couple days. I made like one or two over the last couple days, and I tried to upload them from my phone, but it didn't work, so I just never really followed up or tried any harder. And I remember there have been times during the summer when I'll make up to 3 videos a day and talk about all kinds of random subjects, but it's usually when I'm out and about and really enjoying the weather. I noticed the last 2 days, it's been shit. It's been pouring rain here in Portland area. And, 2 days before that it was sunny. I was out there enjoying it. We set up the hammock. We were all hanging out there. And I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. I could include that in knowledge. Knowing about things. Not just knowing things or learning about things, but going through hypotheticals in your mind is something I do quite a bit. And a lot of people probably do. A situation, let's say you might encounter someone when you're going to work and you run over in your head what you would say if you encountered them, or a situation that might happen. And I don't know how much other people do this, but I think it's something that's natural within man's brain, because you think about, you're out hunting with your tribe and you're going over in your head what you would do if a tiger jumped out, okay? Or what you will do when you see the game. I think that may be... That's one of those things that I'd never even thought about till I just said it. And that's why I like doing videos. Those are those aha moments when I'm like, okay, why do we have this part of our psyche, and where did it come from? And that may very well be, we want to be able to plan ahead and think ahead. But we set ourselves up sometimes and we think things are going to be worse than they are. Or we set ourselves up the wrong way and we end up having the wrong impression of what a person thinks or what they mean about something. And it's easy to get misunderstood. It's easy to get misinterpreted. It's easy to have people think that you mean something when you say something when you really mean something else. And language is so limited. Here we are as humans, and where I was going before I forget is those things. The thing about knowledge and how knowledge helps is by understanding how we are now and picturing the future, picturing things that may happen. It helps us to live better now, to realize that maybe the grass wouldn't be greener on the other side, to know better that you can't just go run around and just be promiscuous your whole life, because eventually you might want to settle down. And that there's still the possibility that you can't go out and do heroin your whole life and party with your friends, because eventually you might want to be clean. Or that you can't just drink a couple 6-packs a night and justify that forever to yourself and think that it's going to be okay. All the little things that we do to ourselves, it's okay to lie to ourselves. We need to have the white lies for ourselves. But when we're harming ourselves, we need to be smart about that, and being educated and understanding the world around us helps us to make better decisions about the foods we eat, the things we consume, and the ideas we have, which can be the most crucial. The ideas that we have about ourselves and our world, because you're stuck with your thoughts, regardless of whether you think of yourself as a positive or a negative person, or you tend to be upbeat or downtrodden. You have to live with yourself, and nobody else does, except for, of course, your immediate family. But, no matter how loud you scream on the internet or how bad you make others feel to justify, you feeling bad. Wow, that was weird. Keyboard just fell out of the thing. It must want us to play it. Anyway, that's my cue. I better head out. I'll talk to you all later, and have a wonderful day. Peace and love.